cheers. Here's Siddle. Oh, Webber is close. He's given him. He's given him. Peter Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday.
Welcome back to episode 40 of the On the Ball podcast. Today I am joined by, well, it's Alex, but nobody calls him that. Everyone knows him as Peanut. Welcome, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Good to be here. Pretty keen.
Yeah, it's been a pretty long time coming, I think. Pretty stiff to have to wait till the 40th episode. So today I feel like you and me actually follow a strange range of sports. Yeah. We're not just your typical footy cricket, and a sport we've both been following recently because of the Netflix Drive to Survive series is the F1. So we're going to review the first 3 races of the season, and on the back of that, we're going to talk about the NBA. Well, I'm not that into it as Peanut is, but we're going to talk about the upcoming NBA resumption. I think it starts on the 31st of July or something I saw, so we'll talk to the NBA expert himself, and we'll get a few predictions.
Games start tomorrow, actually. I think we've been pretty good.
Oh, really? Oh, I did see that on the Google I wasn't sure if it was practice games or something. So yeah, I think for their fun, we'll just roll team by team, and we'll give each team a rating out of 10, and then after that we might, say who's been the worst drivers, the best drivers, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
we'll roll in alphabetical order, so we'll start with the Alfa Romeo.
Alfa Romeo.
Quite a mythical team.
The old Alfa there, Kimi, and Gio.
Yeah. So it's a tough one to rate because I don't think they have the highest of expectations. But if you actually look at the overtakes, so their qualifying position compared to their finishing position, they're actually doing well. They're
moving.
The highest of any other team, so they seem to qualify well. I don't think they've made it out of the first qualifying session yet. And every single race, both drivers have bettered their qualifying position, which suggests that it's just their car that just doesn't have the pace of the other teams.
They're making moves, but they're still, 2 points from Gio's 9th in the Austria first one. And then, sitting around, they're sitting at 14th, 15th. A couple of DNFs, I think, in there. I think it's, they stay pretty under the radar, really sitting back of points a little bit. Magnussen's and, casualties and stuff, I think. There's not too much to get excited about them. At least they are moving up, but no threats or anything. Don't think they'll ever be pushing the top 6, top 5 this year, unless there's a big performance. Like a Gasly last race last year. Something out of nowhere. I think there are.
Yeah, every team with that Ferrari engine seems to be performing a lot slower, so they're probably a casualty of that.
Yeah, I think.
But
I think Ferrari themselves are looking at a big reset. I think their mechanical leader or something came out saying they're going to have a big change up overall and start from square one because they're producing some pretty crummy cars, especially on the straights.
Yeah,
they're pretty in their situation when they run into each other.
Yeah, Alpha's pretty lucky to be even on 2 points. In that race that Giovinazzi came 9th, I think there was 6 or 7 retirements. So
I think 12th to 20th DNFs.
Yeah,
a third last.
So
you cop 2 points. They'll take it for sure.
In terms of a rating out of 10, it's a tough one because I don't think they really had any expectations of being a decent team. So
Kimi's just an old timer. Gio hasn't produced too much. The ninth is good, but I don't know, I think they're sitting for me about probably a 4 or 5 because they are moving up in their qualities. So
I'll give them a 6 out of 10 just because they're sitting in 8th in the championship right now, which is probably about where we expected them to be.
They're holding form.
They just need to do a bit more in qualifying because if they start qualifying 13th, 15th, 14th, then all of a sudden and they keep moving up in the race as much as they have been, well, then all of a sudden they're up into the points. Just a bit hard when you're qualifying from the last row of the grid, like starting the race from the last row of the grid. So
Pretty
that's something
big move.
they need to look at.
Still no
Yeah.
threats, I think. 5 behind. I think who we're going to talk about next, Alpha, still on the standings there. Don't think they'll be threatening Alpha. So
Yeah.
either way.
So as you just suggested, AlphaTauri is the next team. Red Bull's like what can we call it? Feeder squad or whatever.
Yeah, training group.
How many points? They're on 7 points due to Gasly picking up points in the first 2 races.
The big man.
Wait, did he? Oh no, Kvyat picked up in the second race. Gasly in the first, I think.
Yeah, Gasly did 7.
Pretty steady month. 3 weeks for them. Nothing really special. Gasly coming 7th. That's a pretty good effort, but given the fact that the midfield like McLaren, Renault, Racing Point, they're looking a lot faster this year. So 7th for AlphaTauri is pretty good effort, but once again, it's probably mainly due to all the retirements and stuff.
Yeah,
in that race, but still 7th out of 12 or whatever. That's still a good effort.
Did well.
Yeah,
I think Kvyat went out that first race. Gasly DNF, the only DNF in the most recent race. So maybe missed out on a point or two, seeing how he was going, but I think they'll be pretty happy. I mean, Gasly with the 15th in the second race really hurt.
Yeah, and the retirement after, where did he qualify? He qualified in 10th, so they would have been looking at another points finish, but the retirement in that race hurt. So yeah, another one where it's kind of tough because I don't think they had the highest expectations. I think everyone knew Racing Point was going to be a bit better this year. Renault and McLaren were probably going to improve, and AlphaTauri were probably going to be left behind in that pack.
Yeah,
so
they've been left behind in the dust pretty well here. I think still only 5 points behind Renault, but I think Renault is a lot better. I mean, if Ocon starts producing and Ricciardo holds some form, they're looking pretty decent, to be honest. Considering I reckon they'll burst clear.
Yeah, they look a long way from Renault. So for that reason, I'm going to give them a 5. Once again, not the highest expectations going into the season, but they're probably not happy.
They're disappointed.
She said how far away they are from the rest of the teams. I don't think they're going to be catching Renault or any of those better teams anytime soon. So not ideal for them.
Yeah, I think they're probably just sat at where people expect them to be,
exactly.
back in midfield.
Yeah, and then that leads us into the prancing horse. Is that what they call Ferrari? I don't know, the jumping horse or something. But yeah, the Ferrari, probably one of the more disappointing,
definitely standout disappointing
teams. I definitely think they've had the worst 3 weeks of any team just because the lofty expectations that come with Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean,
they're currently sitting 5th, 13 points behind Racing Point.
Shocking.
In terms of their drivers, Charles is in 7th and Vettel is in 10th. So very rare to see a Ferrari driver outside the top 6, let alone both of them.
Yeah, it's I think Leclerc with his second even makes that look pretty generous to him. So
yeah, that's absolutely carrying the points tally. What's that? 18 points. And that's actually the only point Charles has got. And then Vettel's picked up the 9. So yeah, not ideal at all.
I mean, it's quite entertaining actually seeing what they're actually going to do rather than just dominate. Well, be the top 3 every year. So I think it's good to see if they can recover and what they do. But yeah, their car's just not up to scratch this year.
Yeah, the car's not great, but they also seem to not be making the greatest decisions on race day. Like on the weekend, we saw Charles come out with soft tyres and he basically just spent 40 laps just trying to stop people from overtaking him. And he ended up coming 11th, which is just like not good enough for a team with the financial budget of Ferrari.
Yeah, so missing points overall, crashing into each other. They're not doing themselves any favours with that car, but yeah, it's DNF Leclerc in the second race, didn't he? Yeah, and Vettel.
Oh yeah, they both took each other out. Remember? Well, It looked kind of accidental because I don't remember who took who out, but someone took the lip and then got some air and landed on the other, which is pretty rare.
Yeah,
but
I think Leclerc was going down the inside and Vettel got squeezed onto him. So a bit stiff
yeah,
in a packed corner, but still making moves in a packed corner is always risky. So
yeah. In terms of a rating out of 10, probably just going to give them a 1.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they would be happy at all to be sitting. I think they would be able to stomach sitting below Mercedes and Red Bull, but below McLaren and Racing Point, I don't think they'd be happy at all.
below Racing Point would probably get under their skin.
Yeah, so for that reason, I'll give them a 1, just
I think
because
it's
unlike the teams we've had before, they have pretty high expectations.
Some of the biggest disappointments this year, for sure. Probably the biggest. But yeah, I'd like to see him make a big comeback. I don't mind me some Charles,
Yeah.
so if he gets some more.
Yeah, Charles. Yeah, I like Charles. He seems like a good bloke.
I don't know about a bit of a dog nowadays. But
bit scarred from the days where he used to dog Ricardo and Mark Webber.
yeah, well, he used to dominate. Now he's not dominating, and he's having a bit of a tish. So
yeah, and then that moves us into Haas, also on that Ferrari engine that we've talked about. Where they're coming second last, only sitting ahead of Williams because Magnussen picked up a point on the weekend.
Kev,
fair to say they had a pretty decent weekend compared to their normal expectations. Not so much in terms of positions, but like they were in the top 10, both their drivers, for over half the race.
just let slide out of their hands, really.
Yeah, but it has to be said, I don't think it was really much to do with their car. I think it was just a fluky decision to stay on a certain set of tyres.
Yeah, I see big pits and everyone coming in. I think they would have taken their chance to sit up front, see if they could sit there for as long as they can, I reckon.
Yeah. So I guess they did well, and they worked well as a team. Like Grosjean did a bit of blocking almost for Magnussen to stay in those points, and it worked. They got their 1 point they desired, so they are off the bottom of the table.
They're on
But
the ball, that's for sure.
like apart from that point, there's not really too much to be happy about. The first race, they both retired. The second race, they came 12th and 13th, which I guess is not that bad considering they qualified in 20th and 15th, respectively. So
making moves, but no points so no reward really. But I don't think they'll be super disappointed, but I think they're still pushing points, so they'll be a little cut. They haven't got too many so far.
Yeah, pretty similar situation between Haas and the Alfa Romeo. Like they're not qualifying well in the race. They're doing all right, but they probably need to lift their qualifying if they're gonna try and aim and pick up a few more points, which is always hard to do mid-season.
Yeah, definitely
just up to the car.
Overshadowed by some of those other midfield teams like Racing Point, McLaren, Renault. Definitely, those teams definitely seem to be taking priority of the talk in the media over these guys. But I don't think they'll produce much. I think Magnussen's a decent driver. Nothing special. I think his seat's still probably solid, but I think he's probably pushing towards the end of his time. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%.
Pretty stagnant. Grosjean. I mean, I said before the potty when we were having a chat, I wasn't the biggest fan of him. He's a bit of a spud behind the wheel in my eyes, and definitely the two years didn't pump his tyres up at all. I think they just showed all his crashes, but he's a bit of a pip of a bloke. But I don't think he's anything special. DNF. You got a DNF for 13th and a 16th.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing to write home about there. In terms of rating out of 10, I'll give them a 6 just because I don't think, as you alluded to earlier, I don't think they would have had the highest expectations. So kind of similar to Alpha.
Yeah.
Like they're just doing okay, pretty much exactly what we expected them to do. So I'll give them a 6 out of 10.
Just down the guts. Nothing surprising, nothing disappointing.
Yeah, so like I can't say I'll be watching it when I'm watching on race weekend, but I think that'll be a little bit of a mini battle for 8th because I think Alpha Tauri are kind of safe in 7th between the top 6 and the bottom 3.
Yeah.
But I think that position for 8th between Alfa, Romeo, Haas and Williams will be...
Yeah, I'd love to see Williams get some points, that's for sure. Yeah,
that would be cool. So that moves us into one of the better stories of this season so far, McLaren. It was kind of predicted. I watched like a few prediction videos over the summer, and everyone was pretty big on McLaren. obviously Carlos Sainz is like one of the highly regarded drivers outside the big three teams, and then Lando's a good up and comer. And yeah, they've done pretty well. We were talking about it before we came on. Carlos, in terms of his individual performance, probably isn't that stoked. Like, he's been in the points every race. He got the fastest lap point in the second Grand Prix.
Yeah.
But he sits in 9th overall, which I don't know if he would be too happy about personally. But Lando, on the other hand, Lando would be stoked. He's sitting at 4th right now, got his first podium. So yeah,
miracle that was something to watch.
And then the second Grand Prix did similar thing. He like overtook 3 people or something.
Yeah, a bit of controversy with it, but
in the last 2 laps, I think he overtook 3, maybe 2.
Yeah.
So that jumped him up to 5th. And they've had a pretty good month.
Biggest surprise of the year, I reckon, Lando. He's really shown his worth.
Yeah, and Lando's actually doing bits for the sport because as a few of the races were over lockdown, he was like big on the Twitch streaming and YouTube game. And like now Campbell, who knows nothing about F1, he knows who Lando is because of like his game. And now he actually watched the race on the weekend and was like asking how Lando's going and stuff. So he's doing some free promotion for the sport, which is cool to see. But yeah, this is a tough one to rate because almost each driver deserves a different rating because like Lando's would obviously be a lot higher than Carlos's. But
8 to 10. I mean, 13th on the weekend. If that's a top 10, top 8 finish, I reckon he's nearly pushing a 10 for his start of his year.
Yeah.
Signs, I think off the back of last year, I think he would have been loving top 5s, top 6s every week. So maybe a touch disappointing, but I think as a team, they're looking pretty happy at how they're going so far. Definitely pushing the big boys. Only 1 point ahead of Racing Point, which is exciting to watch. But I think pushing Red Bull almost, 14 points behind. That's just a good race or two, and they're ahead of Red Bull. So I think they'll be taking that any day.
Yeah, I think I'll give them an 8 out of 10. I think they've exceeded my expectations. I know they probably had high expectations of themselves, but to be sitting above Ferrari, above Racing Point, who everyone knew coming into the season had like serious pace.
Yeah, they were looking good.
They're doing pretty bloody well. And as you said, they're not too far off Red Bull. Obviously, no one's catching Mercedes.
Yeah,
but
they're out there, aren't they?
Yeah, so what are you going to give McLaren, mate?
McLaren, I'll give them an 8. It would have been a 9 if Sainz had a couple posies higher and maybe Norris in the points in the last race, but I think 8's pretty good, seeing what they were expecting and how they've produced, especially on Lando's end. But I think the car's moving well and good pace, really, up there with the big dogs. So I think they're pretty happy where they're at, and I think they'll definitely be cracking down themselves to really push up the table. Hopefully, slip into second on the team standings. I reckon they're probably pushing for, rather than holding out racing. I reckon they'll push themselves to really push Verstappen and Albon throughout the year.
Yeah. And then that moves us on to Mercedes. Geez, not too much to talk about, really. It's just probably the same as the last 6 or 7 years. They've won all 3 races. They've won all 3 pole positions. They've won one of the 3 fastest lap bonus points. So they've pretty much ticked everything off the bucket list for this season.
One race where Hamilton came 4th, so it wasn't a podium, but bottom.
Yeah.
The rest, they're both on the podium, so I think they're... it's just, what can you say? They're just dominating again. Pretty much expected, I think. I think people would have loved to see. I mean, Ferrari's been disappointing, but definitely Red Bull challenged them a bit more, but Hamilton's just looked dominant. Bottas had a bit of a shaky start on the weekend, which he could have maybe potentially turned into a first or second alongside Hamilton, but I think, they're too good this year again, which is annoying, but fair credit to them, I guess.
Yeah. I'm going to give them a 9 just because, they're not 100% perfect. Like a 10 would be for them with such high expectations. I think a 10 would have to be like
One,
legit 1-2 every race.
yeah, it's just
But I think I'll give them a 9 because their expectations are so high that they have been pretty close to a podium in every race. I think Hamilton's crash with Albon, which was 100% the fault of Hamilton,
Yeah.
is probably the only thing stopping them from having a
still missed
podium
that by
in every
a
race.
tenth of a second. So I mean, they're
Yeah.
fast. They're fast. That's for sure. Hamilton's
Yeah.
2 wins dominated. Wasn't any close.
Yeah, so I guess the only thing they bring to the sport is just a bit of a duel between themselves for
Yeah.
the title. There's 5 points between them at the moment. But unfortunately for Valtteri, there's 2 races at Silverstone coming up, and Lewis has won 5 of the last 6 at Silverstone, so
Good track record.
probably doesn't
He's a good racer.
bode well for Bottas's hopes.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Bottas, but he can drive the car pretty well. I don't know if he can drive it as good as his partner, but I think they're just dominating. It's frustrating when you're looking for a big win every few races, but it's almost just like, oh, Hamilton's in first. That's a win, and it's you're 15 laps into the race, and you're like, oh well.
Yeah, obviously the dream situation would be like all 10 teams are competitive, but
Yeah.
at least they just like get out of the way in the first 3 laps, and you just like don't have to. You can just focus on the battle for like 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, the podium battle.
Yeah, like it's kind of weird. Like they were talking about it on the broadcast on the weekend, and it's like they legit just didn't show Lewis till like the 60th lap or something. Like that, it was just like he was so far in front, it just like didn't even matter to show.
His wins were just miles ahead.
Yeah, that was probably one of the cruisiest ones I've ever seen on the weekend. Like he full pitted to try and get the fastest lap, which he did successfully.
Yeah, just really good pit too. They were quick. I think as a team, they're just too good.
Yeah, I think all of them are pretty bloody good at their jobs. That moves us into Racing Point, also known as the Pink Mercedes, due to them basically just copying the 2019 Mercedes, but just painting it pink. However, in saying that, it's worked for them. They've come from, I don't know exactly where they came last year. I think they might have come 6th or something.
Yeah,
they were in and around with Renault. But now they're sitting in 4th, just behind McLaren.
1 point, really nothing.
Yeah. They actually haven't had a podium yet, which is really the only difference between them and McLaren at the moment, but a lot more consistent.
Yeah.
Apart from the one retirement, they've had 5 results between 4th and 7th, so very consistent.
Yeah.
They've probably been qualifying, except for the qualifying session in the wet in the second Grand Prix.
Yeah.
They've been qualifying higher than they've been like resulting in the race, which is probably not ideal for them. Probably suggests their drivers aren't as good as like the McLaren drivers, but they're doing pretty well.
But Perez,
I'm not the biggest fan of Stroll, if I'm honest.
Very consistent. I think they'll take that.
Yeah.
Stroll, I mean, 4th on the weekend, just gone, Hungary. I mean, beats Albon, beats Vettel. I think they'd be stoked to see the car produce that. 7th, second week, and what was he first week? Oh, did he finish? No. So a DNF. Could have put him.
Yeah.
Could have put him.
So Perez has been outdoing Stroll, except for the weekend. I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of Stroll, just like the whole story about his dad like owning the team, and like he's a very aggressive driver, which at times is interesting, but like I think it was that second race where he like went around Ricciardo like off the track. He like basically pushed Ricciardo off the track, and then Ricciardo just had to cop it. I don't really rate that from him. Well, I rate Sergio Perez.
A bit of an old time.
He's a pretty good driver.
Good point.
So hopefully for them, Perez can maybe turn some of those 6th or 7ths into a potential podium, and that will probably help them in their cause when it comes to overtaking McLaren and maybe pushing to overtake Red Bull as well.
Yeah.
But we'll see how they go.
I think I'd back in McLaren to knock over Red Bull maybe. I don't know if Racing Point has it just yet.
I think Max is too good. Like I don't think Max will miss the podium many weekends if he finishes the race.
Yeah.
In terms of a rating out of 10 for Racing Point,
I think they'd still be pretty happy with how they're going. I mean, a Stroll
Yeah.
DNF in the first could be a couple points they cash in on, and they're right on Red Bull. But yeah, I think maybe an 8 again, 7 or 8. I think they're pretty happy with how they're going. Yeah, you said the qualifying's been a bit better than the actual race day. Maybe takes a couple rating points off for me, but I think sitting 40 points after 3, really up there, pushing for top 3 teams. I mean, any team would be happy with that. Maybe Mercedes would be disappointed if they weren't first this year, but I think Racing Point as a team, they're pretty stoked, I reckon.
Yeah, I'll give them a 7. Very close to an 8, but just the fact that I gave McLaren an 8 and they had a podium, whereas Racing Point don't have a podium yet, so I'll punish them for that.
Punish.
So yeah, I'll give them a 7. But yeah, as you said, I'm pretty sure they would be happy with what they're doing at the moment. And although some people were predicting it, it's still kind of weird to see them up and around, like sniffing at those big point positions and stuff like that. I'm not 100% adjusted to it yet, but so that moves us into the team we keep mentioning, Red Bull. Very different story, similar to McLaren, but even more extreme. Fairly different like stories for each driver. Obviously, Verstappen's one of the best drivers on the grid, if not the best, and then Albon's kind of just finding his way in the car. But it has to be said, Albon's doing pretty well. We were talking off air that first race where he got taken out by Lewis, if he turned that into a podium, and then if you take into his account he's 4th and 5th, then that's a pretty good 3-week stretch for Albon. But sadly, that podium got turned into a 13th, and then all of a sudden it's kind of a different outlook for him.
Yeah.
But Max is doing well. 2 podiums and the retirement in the first race, but I'm sure he would have got a podium there if not the win, as he always does.
It wasn't his fault.
But yeah, Albon did really well on the weekend. Both of them did well on the weekend, actually. Albon qualified 13th, finished 5th. Yeah. Verstappen qualified 7th, finished 2nd. So they would have been pretty chuffed with that race on the weekend, I think.
In the race, the team did a great job to get him back out on the grid.
Yeah.
30 seconds before it started, whatever it was. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, apparently it was a job that normally takes like an hour and a half, and they did it in 12 minutes, which is pretty impressive. Not sure how that maths works out. But
yeah, they've done something, and to hold second, especially when the car was doing what it was, very good race from Max D. I think I'd vote him for best on the grid, especially in car conditions he's got. Red Bull, not quite up there with Mercedes, I think, in terms of car quality. Had a few problems, but a third and a second in that car, and a stiff DNF where he could have pushed another podium. Yeah, he's something else, really. Max, he's a gun.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, so in terms of a rating, I don't know, actually. It's kind of a weird one, because they're probably not as far away from like the McLarens, the Racing Points, as they would like, but when you actually go the race results with context, they've actually done pretty well. So
better.
I'll give them a 7th, because it's probably exactly what they've expected, really. They've probably expected Verstappen to get podiums and then Albon to just be outside that. So and I think they would be happy with 2nd.
Driver standings, I think Albon 4 points behind Norris, who's in 4th. Missing out on those points when he did get hit. I think he probably would have beat Norris, but I think 7 or 8. I think they're still producing some good results for the car.
Yeah, and they'll take 2nd on the.
I think they'll definitely
Constructors' Championship.
Dominant 2nd on the team standings, potentially put some pressure on Mercedes. But I think the Mercedes look too good for them to this year.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it for Red Bull. Like, I have to say, with that Albon crash, there's one thing that annoys me in F1. I don't know how you would do it, but it annoys me if you get taken out. Yes, the other person gets punished, but you don't get like justice. Like, it's kind of like in AFL or NRL when a player gets taken out and that guy is suspended for the next week. It's like, well, if that guy who got injured goes off for concussion for the rest of the game, well, then in that moment, that team's actually still disadvantaged for illegal play, which kind of something that annoys me in sport, but I'm not really sure there's a way you can get around. You can't really just make the race stop and put Albon back into 3rd. Can't just pick up the car.
You couldn't do it. But
so,
I mean,
Yeah, it's stiff,
It's stiff, especially.
but yeah,
I mean, Norris capitalised on it, picked up the podium again. Hurts Red Bull.
yeah.
Um,
I think that's got to be Albon's mission for this next 3-race stretch. So to get his first podium, that would be.
I'd love to.
I think Red Bull would be
go
pretty
around-
happy for him to finally
I
tick
go
that
around
one
big
off.
man, so I think he's a gun. It's not quite at
Yeah.
that level, I don't think, but I think as a duo, they're pretty damn talented, especially at their age.
Yeah. And then onto the Renault. Interestingly, they're getting smashed by McLaren, who actually uses a Renault engine, which doesn't really make too much sense to me. It's like,
Yeah,
how does that work? But
it's interesting. I think Ricardo's trying his gun out. Maybe a bit of Aussie bias to it, but I think Ricardo he's still pushing the car. Ocon, I think, can't letting the boys down. Hasn't produced too much this year. Hasn't looked too good.
yeah,
Looking at his,
he seems a bit like Kvyat, where he's just solid, nothing special.
yeah, well, he picked up an 8th in the first race,
Yeah,
points, and then a DNF and a 14th in that car is probably a little on the disappointing end for their perspective. Ricardo picked up an 8th, obviously in Hungary, which I reckon they'll be more expected to see him produce those kind of results than an 8th the week before. And obviously his DNF week 1 hurts the points. But yeah, I think back-to-back 8ths for Ricardo is definitely their kind of standard. And Ocon can get in the top 10 for some points. I think they might push up the team standings a little bit, put some pressure on Ferrari if they don't fix their car. That's how it is. But yeah, I think they'd definitely be looking to just keep 6th, really push away from the other lower teams.
yeah. I don't know what it is with Renault. They seem to have a lot of retirements over the last few seasons. I think that's why Red Bull changed to the Honda engine or whatever.
Yeah,
but
definitely produced.
yeah, and then the only thing for Renault, it's a bit of a tough season this one because I don't think they're anywhere near the top. Well, they are close to them, but I don't think they're going to compete with the top 5.
No, I think.
And then I think they're better than the bottom 4. So I feel like similar to AlphaTauri, they're kind of just stuck in the position they are. And it kind of just comes down to hopefully a few decent individual performances to make their season a bit interesting.
Ride the season out
Yeah.
at 6, I think seats up for grabs end of the season. So I think they might need a big restart like Ferrari's doing at the moment, but not probably as big. I think Renault's stuck at 6 for the whole year probably is what we're going to see, I reckon.
Yeah. I'll give them not to be like funny, but I'll give them a 6 for their rating as well.
Probably deserve it. Maybe a 5, maybe touch 20.
They probably wish they were doing a little bit better, but
I think
it's probably about where we expected them to come.
Ferrari's kind of level, but they're still 15 points behind. So,
like Danny Rick, as you were saying, maybe Australian bias here, but if he turns that retirement into a points finish, if he's had 3 straight points finishes in a row, like that's a pretty good effort.
Yeah, I think.
So although I'm giving them a 6, I don't think they've done that bad. They just probably need to try and limit those retirements.
Yeah,
and then
there's always seems to be something wrong with the Renault. To highlight it in the series a bit both seasons, but
big Cyril. Not a fan of Cyril actually.
He's an interesting. He's pretty funny, but
yeah, he is funny. He's a character, but I feel like I don't know. I guess Christian Horner's a bit of a knob as well at times, but
he isn't happy with anything. I mean, it could be
some of their combos are a bit weird.
Alex can say, "Yeah, pretty good job, boys." So never fully satisfied that man, but I think Renault, probably just sitting at 6 for the whole year.
Yeah, and then in terms of the final team to tick off, we've got the Williams. Surprise, surprise, they're still stuck in last with no points as they have been for pretty much 3 or 4 years straight. Latifi's a new driver to F1. He's done all right. He got an 11th in the first race, which is pretty good. But when you give context, the fact that there was like 7 retirements probably takes it a little bit away from it, but still good effort.
He's good at the blocks. If you've been watching the starts, he's good at the blocks. And I know the car probably doesn't help him or some.
Yeah, he had a bit of a tough weekend. I think he went off the track 3 or 4 times. think he pitted 5 times or something, so it wasn't the easiest run for him in Hungary. They've been qualifying well, which is just, I'm not sure what's that down to, really. Maybe just down to the fact that Haas and Alfa Romeo don't have the greatest power units at the moment, but like on the weekend, they both got out of Q1, so... Well, I always get confused. Is the first session Q1 or is the first session Q3? Pretty sure the first one's Q1, and then it goes to Q3. It's like the top 10. But yeah, they both got out of that first session, which is like a first for Williams in a long time.
Long time, for sure.
But then came race day, and they were the final 2 cars to finish.
Yeah.
So
Latifi,
obviously, with the Gasly
out
retiring,
of all finished cars, Latifi's last every week. Russell second last 2 weeks.
Oh, that's different.
So I think the first week might make it look a bit better than what it is for the car. I mean, coming up, you could see it came 11th, but it's really bottom of the table.
It's tough to rate, though. It's tough to give a rating because it's like there was no other expectation.
Yeah. I mean, Russell's been having some good runs. I think sitting around 10th to 12th for a bit during races, and then I think he's DNF first week, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think he was sitting 10th to 12th for a good while, and the car just some mechanical issues. I think put him out to race. I think he's shown some promise, the young man, but hopefully he might be able to ditch Williams the next few years for a half decent car.
Yeah, I'll give them a 5 or a 6. I'll give them a 5. Like that, it's pretty much spot on what we thought they were going to do. But I think given the spots they've been qualifying at, they would like a better result come
I think
after the Monday night race. So
you have to put in a big stint for some points, definitely.
Yeah,
I don't see
they've got
beating a fair few, 10 other cars on the grid or whatever. So I think Latifi coming 11th out of 11 first week, stiff to miss out on a point or two, maybe if he sneaks up one or something. But the Williams isn't producing this year once again, for sure.
Yeah, I guess the upside for them, they've got 2 weeks of a home Grand Prix coming up, but not sure if that's really going to help their performance on the track. But who knows? Maybe a morale boost.
Yeah, they might. Nothing about. No sticking boys.
All right, so that's it in terms of team for team. Now, a general overview. If we had to award a team of who are the top 3 teams, so we can basically, I guess, look at our ratings, can't we? But if we go our top teams, I'd probably have to award it to maybe McLaren. I think they've been the standout team. Obviously, Mercedes has had the best results, but that's kind of just what we expect from Mercedes. So I think I would have to give the best team to McLaren.
For sure.
Closely followed by Mercedes and Racing Point, I think.
Yeah, I think
close.
Red Bull just at 4th. I don't think they cracked that top 3. A bit point-wise, 55. Still 70 odd behind Mercedes. Probably a bit disappointing for them. I reckon Mercedes, McLaren, Racing Point. I mean, you can argue either way which one's 1, 2, and 3 based on results and expectations and stuff. So I think that's a pretty standard top 3, I reckon, for most.
Yeah, and then worst teams, I think everyone would have Ferrari number 1.
Yeah, most disappointing.
They've had a real fuck up. And then
maybe.
I won't lie, it's pretty hard to choose the other 2, because everyone else is kind of just performing to expectation or exceeding it apart from Ferrari.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'll name another 2. I think I'll just
Ferrari
highlight that focus on Ferrari.
Yeah, I think Haas would have liked some, pushing AlphaTauri at 7 points. I think they would like to see Grosjean up there maybe. Magnussen, produced some good results, but just stiff on points.
Yeah, it's just a pretty big L for any car with the Ferrari power unit at the moment.
Yeah, it just seems pretty.
Alpha, Ferrari, and Haas, all in that boat. Now, in terms of drivers, if we had to award a top 3 drivers, this is a tough one.
If Lando pulled in a big effort on the week,
I
reckon he's definitely sitting top 2, maybe. Just out of pure surprise. I think Verstappen's got to be top 2 for sure.
Yeah, I actually think I'd go Verstappen 1, Norris 2, Hamilton 3.
Yeah,
and then Bottas and Perez just missing out.
Yeah, and Albon maybe sneak in. But
Yeah, I think
definitely Verstappen, Norris really showing some good driving this year.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to start that. So as I mentioned on a previous episode, I've been trying to do like a Brownlow type votes for a few other sports. I'm definitely going to give it a crack for F1. I think it would be interesting. I think it'd be interesting to see come the end of the season which drivers exceeded expectations week after week.
Yeah.
And then in terms of worst driver, well, this is a tough one.
Yeah.
This is actually
really
hard.
I mean, Giovinazzi's done nothing special. He copped a 9th.
I might have to go Vettel.
Yep, I think
But
that's arguable.
it's hard to distance their car from themselves, but I think I'll go Vettel and Sainz, bottom two. It's very stiff on Sainz, but just compared to what Norris has been producing, and I think everyone considered Sainz the best driver that's not in a top 3 team.
Yeah.
So it's very stiff given.
It's arguable, for sure.
Yeah. And then next, maybe Ocon or something.
Yeah, he's been underwhelming.
Yeah, pretty much just guessing there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Grosjean and stuff haven't been great, but their cars are never great, are they? So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sometimes it's not all their fault or whatever, but
yeah, it's tough. So that's pretty much it for the F1s. We've got a weekend off in terms of the F1 season this week, and then we go straight back into another 3 weeks of back to back. So 2 at Silverstone and then 1 at Barcelona. So
it's gonna be exciting.
That will be.
I think weeks off for teams to look at the cars, maybe make some changes. I reckon next few weeks. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think Ferrari definitely needed this week off to try and sort some things out. I know
probably
they changed something in the car, and then in the second race, and then they both crashed in the first lap, so they just couldn't see what happened. So I think little stuff like that, they'll need a week to work out if their improvements are working and stuff like that.
Yeah, I reckon.
So yeah, I'll definitely look to get you back on to maybe review the next 3 bunches of F1 races after that.
Yeah,
not too sure when that would be. I think late August or something. But now we move on to the NBA. As you said, I think it starts tomorrow.
Yeah, some matches. I don't know if I haven't looked too much into it, to be honest. I think other sports have taken my priority, and it's been so long since the last game.
Yeah, I won't lie. It's kind of weird. There's not much information on it.
Yeah, so looking at the startup, it's pretty. I like how they've done it, to be honest. I think it keeps it interesting. So, 22 teams in, 9 from the East, 13 from the West. So it's the top 8 plus any teams within 6 games of the top 8. So
yeah,
the Wizards.
So I think
the East. So
I think there's 8 games. I think each team plays 8 games or something.
Yeah, 8
and
games
then that's to kind of seed the finals and give the teams outside the 8 to have a crack at it. And then there's some weird. I don't know 100% what it is, but there's some weird playoff.
Yeah, so if the 9th seed is within 4 games of the 8th, and they have a little play-in tournament. So I think it's out of 3 or something, and then 8th gets 2 chances, and 9th gets 8th gets an extra chance if they lose the first game or whatever. So
yeah,
I think it's reasonably.
That's an interesting concept.
I mean, if the 9th seed's still 4 games behind to 8th, I think it might be a little bit stiff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's only a few games to catch up those 6-game brackets, so it's interesting. There's some teams that might show some promise too, with only a few games in the season, might come good. So I reckon it'll be exciting.
Yeah, it'll definitely be exciting in the West. There's only 2 spots up for grabs, but there's 7 teams vying out for those 2 spots.
Definitely
so Dallas look like they've pretty much confirmed their spot, but especially for that 8th spot, it's going to be spicy. So whereas the East is a little bit more tame. But
Memphis, really, you'd think they'd get there, and they got a pretty good roster too. So
yeah. So in terms of your top 3 favourites to win the competition, who are you looking at this stage?
Yeah, there's a few big teams. I think Milwaukee's looking pretty good. Giannis. Probably the best player in the comp at the moment, probably. I think Boston's a sniff. I think they'll come good for sure. They've shown themselves this year. Well, they're winning 43-21, so good showing from the boys. Miami Heat, maybe a roughie. My boys, the Heat, 41-24. But yeah, Lakers, Clippers, Milwaukee definitely seem to be the big three.
Yeah, they're probably the three big dogs, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then in terms of top three teams, you like wouldn't, I don't know how to word this, but you wouldn't want to face them in the playoffs. So I'm not, obviously the three teams you mentioned would be the three teams you wouldn't want to face, but I'm talking teams who are going to sneak in at 6th, 7th, 8th, or even 5th that could really produce an upset and go on a bit of a run. Who would you be afraid of if, Miami came 3rd and then got drawn up against?
Yeah, I think Philly sitting at 6th. I mean, they Eastern Conference Finals last year, losing on that crazy Kawhi Leonard shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, Philly's pretty tough. Brooklyn, not sure about yet. They've still got a negative record, so I don't know if I'd be threatened by them over a few series. But in terms of the West, Houston sitting at 6th. I think
that's dangerous.
Stars that could put some pressure on, especially in the playoffs where big players really, really dominate. Dallas, if Luka and stuff can get something going, maybe they can put a few games on the board and put a bit of pressure on. And apart from that, I don't know. Pelicans, maybe. If Zion's missing a few weeks due to family issues leaving the bubble. Don't know if you heard about that. But
No.
yeah, he left the bubble for some family reasons, which is fair enough. So I think he's missing a couple of weeks. But when he gets back, they could really push for that 8th spot. But they are 4 games behind Memphis and Portland, a game ahead of Pelicans. So I think it'd be interesting. But yeah, I think the big three teams are really could put on an effort here.
Yeah, I can't lie. I'm actually very keen for this. Like, I'm not the biggest basketball fan, but I usually watch the playoffs every year. And this is basically just like an extended playoff series because,
yeah, every game.
Like, although there's like Phoenix sitting in at 13th in the West, still in the competition, like pretty much every game is going to be between playoff teams or playoff contenders. So it should be pretty high level stuff. Yeah, so it should be pretty good.
I think Spurs will be a threat. Same with the Kings. But
I'm not really sure. I'm not going to go for any team because I like just watching it as a neutral. But I feel like I'm pretty keen to watch like the Celtics.
Yeah.
Even Denver. I just like the teams that they're not really carried by one or two players. They're more just like a team effort. Yeah. I rate that stuff.
Solid rest of the Celtics. Tatum, Kemba.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, I like it.
Toronto.
And then
don't know if they have it this year. I mean, sitting at 2nd.
Yeah.
Loving that.
Yeah, they've got a pretty good record.
They push a good few brackets, I reckon. I don't know if they trump Milwaukee though. I don't think they beat them across 7 games.
Yeah, it probably hurts them. That they've lost their like home advantage.
Yeah,
which was pretty big for them.
Definitely would hurt.
Well, it's probably hurt a lot of teams, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I guess it kind of evens out. But in terms of individual awards, who would you be looking at to win the MVP, and who do you reckon will be in the All NBA first team? Obviously, it's hard to predict, but
still leading MVP race.
Yeah,
I think he's got a few. He's leading a few stats, I think. So he's something else. But LeBron, I mean, people talk about him and his age and stuff. I think he's leading assists this year, so that's pretty crazy at his age. So I think the first time he's ever averaged over 10 assists for a season. So I think he might be a sniff, but I think Giannis has just dominated again. He should get Defensive Player of the Year again, I reckon. But All NBA first team is pretty tough. A few good guards and stuff going around. I think Trae Young probably looking at a pick for one of the guard spots. Ja Morant, he's just been good all year. I don't think he'll make the all first, but he's definitely worth a mention of his performance this year.
Yeah, rookie of the year.
Yeah, it's got to be unanimous, really.
Yeah.
Oh, first, jeez, it's tough. You go Giannis in there, LeBron, taking a small forward, power forward. Maybe a Luka. Luka's showing stuff. Harden, actually. Yeah, hard to go past Harden maybe for that shooting guard.
Who's your centre?
Centre. It's
Which centres have been Big Bam?
He's not the most improved, I reckon. I think they got to watch out for the Bam. Yeah. I don't know. It's
Who
hard to. Everyone. Oh, maybe Davis potentially. He's been pretty.
Yeah, that's true. I think Anthony Towns was pretty hot at the start, but I think he kind of
He might
calmed down a bit.
dropped off a bit, but yeah, maybe Davis. I don't know. Centers are interesting. There's always different stats which people compare it better, and blocks and steals and points and stuff. So
yeah,
it's pretty good this season in terms of quality, but yeah, it's
I feel like although those big three teams in terms of like star power are a lot better than the rest. I think there's a wide range of like high level teams.
yeah.
Like as you mentioned earlier, the fact that Houston and Philadelphia are sitting at sixth in their respective conferences, that's like pretty spicy.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a bit lower than what they were expecting if we're talking about expectations again. But I mean, Indiana at fifth, I think, in the East. Yeah, they'd be loving that. I mean, same percentage as Philly, so it's really equal fifth.
Yeah.
But Philly have lost a few close ones, I think, this year. A few within a couple of points, so that might scrape them up to fourth or even third if some of those go their way. But like looking at second, Toronto 46 wins and Philly at 6 of 39, 7 games in it. The top 5 outside of Milwaukee is pretty interesting to be on the Eastern Conference side.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all we've got for you today. Can't lie, I'm glad we did the NBA episode today. I wasn't sure when to do this episode, but didn't quite realize it was starting tomorrow. So that's all actually a pretty good result.
I really just looked into it the last couple of days. Not sure if those games are. I'm hoping they count because it'd be good to get it back on the road. But yeah, that might be scratchy.
Yeah. Although there's a lot of sport at night at the moment with the cricket, rugby league, AFL, soccer, it'd be good to get some 24/7 sport going. So
yeah, I think
especially
Bet and the likes will be loving that the basketball's back. I know.
Yeah.
Same game multis in basketball is always.
Geez, our group chat already gets sent through enough multis.
Yeah.
If basketball gets added to the mix, it could be the mute button could be could be a chance. It could be a chance.
It's unfortunate that my input's always disappointing news. It's never a win. But you got some boys who like a big win. So really good.
So that's pretty much it, really.
Yeah, it's been good.
Unless you have anything else to add. Yeah, so that's your first 3 rounds of the F1 season and your NBA resumption preview.
Yeah. I mean,
pretty just chilled conversation, really. We didn't do too much hardcore analysis, but
early days for both sports at the current stage, so it's hard.
Yeah, exactly.
To get a good look at it. I think in a few weeks, definitely we'll see the true colour.
Yeah, so hopefully in like a month or 3 or 4 weeks, well, that is a month, but we'll get you back on and we'll discuss these 2 topics again and we'll see where they're at. To be honest, by that stage, our opinions could have completely changed or they could be consolidated.
Yeah,
so
you never know. Ferrari might be on top.
Stay tuned for that.
If they produce it.
Yeah.
But no, it's been good, mate. Been a pleasure to be on.
Thanks for coming on.
Was keen to get a feature at some point, but
it was long overdue. So apologies for the wait. You actually might be coming on an episode soon. I haven't even asked you, but I've got an episode planned with Brownie that I wouldn't mind you hopping on as well.
I look forward to it then. Bit of surprise after.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to you. I'll have to talk to your people.
Yeah, my
people talk to your people.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'll try and book you in. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Nat.
Been a
pleasure to talking to you.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening. If you're still listening, good effort from you.
Yeah.
Pat yourself on the back.
And
yeah,